This show would not be produced without InstantlyRelevant.com. My teams at InstantlyRelevant.com do an excellent job at creating the content, the social media posts, managing the whole process. The systems we've built to help grow a business without brand-wrecking spam have been critical, and they're just so integrated into what we do here at Never Been Promoted. So if you have the same needs of growing a business online, through social media, through web, through email, check out InstantlyRelevant.com and see if they can help you as well.
Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast with Thomas Helfrich. Get ready for a thrilling adventure as we uncover entrepreneurial journeys and life-changing business insights every week. And now your host, Thomas.
Welcome to another episode of Never Been Promoted, where we unleash your entrepreneur by learning from other entrepreneurs and their journey. And today I'm joined by Vincent Catanzaro. Is that right?
That sounds good.
I mean, you have such a good radio voice. You don't even have a face for radio. So if you're listening to this, good looking dude. I mean, come on. Anyway, Vincent, how are you, Vince? You want to do, I know you filled out a bunch of stuff to talk to us about, who you are, but why don't you just take the moment to introduce yourself?
Sure. All right. So Vince Catanzaro, I am partner in a company called Renee Vincent Executive Placement. We're a husband and wife team. We've been in business about 3.5 years. And this is my second run through being an entrepreneur, this time with my wife.
This time with your wife. So in my book, Never Been Promoted, I don't think I explicitly say this, but starting a business with family is a dangerous venture. And so before we get into that craziness, give me a little bit about your journey, how you got to, on your entrepreneur journey of this route, and just give us a little background on you and how you got to become an entrepreneur.
Sure. I'll give you just a few seconds personal. So I have a big family. My wife and I have 6 children together, adults now, ages 30 to 19. In my career arc has first 9 years of my career was in kind of technology, recruitment, agency side, also corporate, ran a corporate function for a Fortune 50 company, left that industry, spent a decade in commercial real estate development. The Great Recession forced me out of that industry, ended up back in recruiting again, this time now a little bit older, running third-party recruiting firms, running global talent acquisition for a tech ed company, and then made my way back into becoming an entrepreneur.
For those of you who noticed a pause, that's because I talked to the mute button on. Anyway, thanks, Ben. For this run, right? What exited you out of corporate world and into your own business?
I think I was just always meant to be an entrepreneur. I always find it hard working for other people. I think my wife calls me what do you call those people who are only concerned about themselves?
Narcissist.
Yeah, that's the word.
You're not a narcissist. I disagree.
I don't think so. But, I do struggle working for folks, and, I really just want to be able to do what I want to do. And, I mentioned I was an entrepreneur twice and once in real estate, and that unwinding from the Great Recession took a long time. So our bank got shut down in 2009. At that point, I had a bunch of construction loans that I personally guaranteed, moved to the FDIC, and that didn't unwind until the end of 2016. So soon after that ended, the bug started to come back. I started talking, so my kids were getting older. And I started talking to my wife about hey, so what's our future? 6 kids, stay-at-home mom, makes sense, right? But the kids started getting older. And I was like, is our future I work and you do girls trips? What are we going to...
That sounds like a great plan for healthy.
Yeah, so I was like, what are we going to end up doing? So we started probably in 2016 talking about doing something together. We never went to we discussed going to a franchise trade show. We never did go to a show, but just to kind of get some ideas about what to do together. And
yeah,
go ahead. I was just going to say, and then this business, I knew I wanted to pursue executive recruitment. Started telling my wife, hey, I'm thinking about going to work for myself again, executive recruitment, think I can do it. Here's my thoughts. And then one day during COVID, it hit me. I was like, we need to call this business Renee Vincent, and Renee needs to do it with me. And I went home, where I was actually at the mall with my son when the idea hit me, went home, pitched the idea. And, it was really funny because, for her 50th birthday, she really wanted a Rolex watch. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, use your phone like everyone else does, right? Like no one even wears a watch anymore. And then I ended up inheriting my dad. My dad passed away a couple of years later. I inherited his Rolex watch. So when I pitched the idea to her, well, she seemed pretty excited about it. She's like, well, I had to have a Rolex. I was like, that's great. With your very first commission check, go get any Rolex you want. And she did exactly that. So that was kind of cool. So that's kind of how we got started the second time around.
So if we were on your podcast, Meet the New Boss, right?
Yes.
We would play that rap song, I wanna rolly, 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 during that bit.
Oh yeah, I guess so. I don't know that song, but yes.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. Not in the genre of music that we like as Gen Xers. But I will I'll give you the floor. So you've done more than that though. So you have your own podcast as well. You want to talk about that a little bit? Is one of the things that, would you say?
Yeah, so the podcast, we're in the process of really, it's kind of been merged to the business, but not really. The podcast actually came up before being an entrepreneur again. A friend of mine called me up and he's like, hey, let's do a podcast. And at first I was like, I don't think so, man. I hear my voice and I sound like a drunk Sylvester Stallone. I don't know if I want to, digitize my voice forever. He's like, no, it'd be great. This next thing I know, we were podcasting about business and music influences, not about the music business, right? And we didn't even know what we were doing. We had no idea how to produce podcasts, engineer podcasts, create podcasts. And, we had gotten like 6-7 episodes recorded and mostly engineered before we even could figure out how do you post these things so that people could hear them, right? So that was somewhat of a slow journey, but we had 3 seasons of Meet the New Boss, which is mostly guests coming in, talking about what does it mean to be a new boss, what their strategy was. And this is all C-suite type folks. And some pretty cool companies people would know. We had like the chief legal officer of the New York Mets on. She was a real fun interview. And so, stuff like that. And so that podcast has been around a little bit longer than the business, but we, it's so closely related to what we do, as it turns out, that we're now kind of melding it right into the business itself.
And so let's get into your working as a family business. And I know both you guys, for full, pretty well, or well enough. I don't want to say pretty well, but more than most people, I'd say, in the world. You are different personalities. And I'm sure, like, it's, I can't imagine, I've seen some of your conversations together where you're working in a business together. What do you think are some of the critical factors of just success? And then maybe extrapolate that now when you're working with a family member, specifically a spouse, consider what are some things you should definitely consider?
Well, so we're married 31 years, so we're not like newlyweds. So we've kind of already stood the test of time and the challenges. And when you're a business partner with someone, it's very much like being married, right? It's a legal document. It requires attorneys to unwind legal agreements, right? And so it's kind of like a marriage, right? And I've been a partner to other people in the past, and there was a bunch of attorneys involved in unwinding that business. And, it was a horrible experience. And so it was either going to be myself or just with my wife. And so it's great that it's been with my wife. Now, we are very different. So I am a bigger picture, higher level thinker, move faster, but without great level of detail. And she moves fast, but with great level of detail. And spends a lot of time on detail. So we, I end up, as it worked out, it's I'm all operations. So I'm the tech guy, the billing guy, right? All those kinds of things. And she runs her own desk and has her own customers and does her own business, and she's excellent at it. And so when we talk about business and talk about customers and talk about, the experience, and here's what I would do, here's what you should do, let's just talk through that situation. that always goes really well. What doesn't go really well is when we're trying to meet on different subjects and she's being very detailed. And in my mind, I keep hearing, who cares about this? Nobody cares about this. This is like, I don't care, whatever, right? Because it takes so long to get through her detail. But she's fantastic at it. And, we work on different levels of the house, on opposite sides of the house. So it'd be like just working in the same office building, but and the houses, we're in Alpharetta, Georgia, the big homes here. It's not like I can go the whole day without seeing her. Or sometimes, most of the times I see her is on video calls. So we have joint video calls. So we really do have our own space.
And you make a good point, though. When you have different working styles where you see the law of diminishing returns comes quicker to you than it does for her. So her shelf is much further away. You have to accommodate both because there are benefits to both. Moving fast without detail has great effect, but when it matters, you need someone who can do that, and you have that in it. And the fact that you can kind of balance those two styles is very helpful. And for example, my wife and I, it's a very similar piece where she can hone in on details, and I'm like, no one cares about this, and I certainly don't. But I have to be patient because I know it matters to her. And I know about you, but I don't nail that quiz every time 100%. Usually it's maybe a C level.
Right? It's often it's like, are you listening to me? What did I just say?
And
like,
honestly,
I
don't. I'm checked out. My mind's someplace else to help. Anyway, don't do that. Anybody listening, men, just actually listen if you can. Try to get it at a C, B level. Okay, so in your business, right? You guys have you took the risk. You're in that season of life, so to speak. And one thing we don't talk about a lot on the show here, but I'd love for you, because I know it's core to you, is how faith ties into some of this, and how your belief, and you guys, you have an amazing story, which we won't fully get into today. But I think there's a big piece of what you did, because you could have said, let's just corporate, kids are gone, we can just kind of do our checkout jobs. You decided to take on effectively another baby by starting your own business right when you had the free time to maybe do some other stuff. So talk about how faith matters in that journey to you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm a faithful man, right? And I think most people don't understand faith, and it's a long journey, right? So I'm 55 years old. These last 5 years for me have been very impactful. But I could tell you with confidence from Scripture that God wants us to be successful, right? That God has provided everything we need to accomplish what we need. Right? Everything we have, our bodies, our computers, this video technology, nuclear fusion, rocket technology, whatever. We as human beings pull that out of the elements of the earth, right? As we discover all that. And so, it was really going in with confidence, understanding that if we do the right things, right, we will be successful. I had to work, right? This doesn't happen. I don't pray and then business comes in, right? I hump it, right? But I know how to hump it, right? I know God wants me to be successful, right?
By the way, for those who don't know, he's saying work hard. He doesn't literally hump anything. He's a faithful man. Be clear?
Well, yeah, exactly.
I just want to clarify the word hump there. Because that's going to come out people are going to read that and be like, what's he humping?
Yeah, he's humping something.
Make a short of the humping.
Yeah. So grind. I don't know if grinding is any better.
I'm not sure that's a better word either.
Yeah,
I think the idea you're saying is it's not given. You're not praying. When's it going to show up? You're like, you've been given the tool to go hustle.
Right. It's been given to us for us to achieve. And so like at first, right, it was pretty scary because we just did it, right? So turned off income, living off of equity, right, and savings. And we, like my wife, I think like it took 9 months for the first check to come.
Well, and like, set that stage, right? You had just gone through not that long ago, paying off personal guaranteed loans. And now you're back to, hey, let's go pay ourselves some more money and not have income. And so the idea I tie in faith with that is you had so much faith in yourself and your wife to be able to do it. You said, no fallback. Let's go get this. We got everything we need. We've been through rough. We've been through worse. And you jumped right back in. That to me,
I think you have to know, or you have to know you're going to make it, right? And it's really funny going into 2023. So I belong to an executive group where we meet biweekly, and it's executives from all over the world, and we talk about, economy, things affecting the world, cryptocurrency, whatever, right? We're talking about BRICS and all sorts of, global topics. And there was a lot of people talking heading into this year with, a bear market mentality. This is going to be a bad market. Things are going to go bad, right? And in my mind, I was like, this is going to be a great year. And it has been a great year. And I think that's right. If you can operate with confidence, with, knowing that whatever challenges come up, there's a way to navigate it and understand and believe that, right? And own that, then you can move forward kind of fearlessly and not let outside factors affect what you're doing, right? And so that's really how I do it, right? And how I stay balanced. And and certainly we've had times where our business bank account's been really flush, and there's been times where our business bank account has been really low. And during those low times, it's just, knowing that, hey, we're moving, right? Things are happening, right?
Yeah, well, that unwavering faith and belief in yourself, and it's tied to a bigger, you just some people do it, but it's a false confidence. It's a fake it till you make it, and you don't presume to know everything. But the point is, because you have a higher power, higher meaning in your body, in your life, you believe it's all there. It's just for me to put it together and not make the excuses to go find reasons not to be successful. You go find the reasons to be successful. And I've seen that with you, and knowing you outside, that I see that every time I've interacted with you. Like, you find reasons to try to find the positive to go get things done, and you have to go do that. So I think that lesson, and anybody from an entrepreneur listening, is if you're somebody who makes excuses, always plays the victim, is always false sense of entitlement, entrepreneurship might not be the right path for you, because there's just, that's going to give you a nice avenue to create a lot more excuses, reasons why.
You have to have a vision, and you have to be able to vision cast, and you have to be able to work hard to make that vision come together. Like, do what you need to do to make that vision come together. And as I watch interviews, or I watch successful people, and they had this, I think it was like on Netflix, like this 3-part series called Arnold, about Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And like the first one was his bodybuilding career, and the second episode was his acting career, and then his third episode was his political career. And all 3 domains, because he was able to see where he was going, he achieved greatness in all 3 domains. Now, certainly he's a flawed human with all sorts of, things that he regrets. He talks about that in that series. But it was really, what was stuck with me was that people, when they talked about him, is that he was really able to vision cast. So when you talk to him about where he was going, he was really able to explain that to you. And I don't know this to be fact, but I think about that from Elon Musk and building SpaceX. Like in my mind, going around telling people you're going to own a rocket ship company similar to NASA, actually bigger than NASA, right? And send rockets into space and plan a mission to Mars, and just do like all these like way outside the box, huge, big thinking things.
Outside the planet.
Yeah, outside the planet things, and make that come together and be able to cast that vision and get people to buy into that vision and attract the experts to make those kind of things happen. That's some great vision casting. And I think for an entrepreneur, right, you need to be able to cast that vision, own that vision, and stay on it, right?
Yeah, and I think sometimes the reality of, and this is one of the problems of social media in general, is that you see ultra successful people, Elon Musk maybe being one of the most successful, obviously, people on the planet. You don't have to be anywhere close to that. In your business, or even ours, like, there's, let's say on LinkedIn, 750 million people, and you're just trying to find 10 customers a year, or maybe 10 a month, maybe less.
Yeah, in my case, less. Like a couple new customers a year would be great. But I tell the people that when they're job searching. So I talk to a lot of executives, right? And a lot of them are going through transition. And, we're a small company, so I don't have this huge machine to pump them into. And so
That's
I
an
always
advantage
try.
for you guys too, because you get personality and so you're taking advantage of that. Would be maybe a challenge for somebody else. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think it's an important point. Is that you're taking something that could be perceived as a disadvantage, and saying I'm making that an advantage because now I can give more attention to those who we work with, and then they get exactly it's a different buyer.
So I give them a lot of love in their job search, and then as I talk to them through that, right, it's really they do this for the companies they work for all the time, but they don't do it for themselves, and it's really, you know, business planning, go to market planning, right? You're a product, you're a service, right? You're going to take your service to market. Who's your target market? Where, you know, what's your value statement? How are you adding value? So all those kinds of things that they would do in their role as a C-suite executive for a mid-cap company, they don't ever use that same methodology for themselves. And I kind of get them on that path of like, hey, let's think about this as a business, right? That, you know, hey, this is the Thomas business and we're going to figure out where Thomas is going. Because once you know where you're going, right? Once you know the destination, no matter what you're doing in life, right? Once you have a clear destination of what you want to accomplish, then getting there is building a plan, and that's the easy part, and then executing against it.
Yeah,
right?
and
that's where
you might find when you get there, it wasn't where you intended, but what you do is you retreat and remove distractions that you are sure are not going to get you there, and you can decide along the way of what you do and don't do around the way, and that helps you focus. Specifically, I just want to dive me a layer into your business bit. For someone who's listening and going, well, how am I going to compete with my old company? How am I going to compete with the big world as a niche provider of, and there's millions of people doing what you're doing out there, but you guys have found a lot of success in a very short amount of time. Talk about any systems you've created or ways that you found to differentiate yourself. And share like listen, if you're an entrepreneur out there and you're a niche in any field, what would you recommend for them to do to be able to compete and be, you know, kind of happy and be able to have a life and you know, and be and enjoy?
Yeah. So there's a few different things, and Renee and I do it differently. So because Renee is a little bit more old school and prints and uses files and those kinds of things, but I automate as much as possible, right? So I use systems, services, like Instantly Relevant to, you know, make my time more productive, right? And so I'm not looking to, in our business, we're not looking to hire employees. We're not looking to grow this into a big firm. And, you know, this is a lifestyle business where we can travel like we just did and spend 2 weeks on the beach in Florida and had our computers with us and worked. But we just happened to be working beachside, right? And so that was kind of the idea, right? In order to pull that off and maximize how much Vince can get done, a lot of automation had to go into place, right? And how do I automate without it being automated or appear to be automated? And so, you know, we do things like that in order to maximize the value. And, you know, and you have to have business, right? And, you know, not everyone is comfortable with new business development, right? And I think if there's, you know, chief revenue officers out there listening to your podcast, they're like, you know, where do I find a couple more really good new business development people? Because it's hard to find new business development people. But if you can figure out for yourself a system that you can repeat, and because you could do new business development and hate it, and then you'll find every excuse not to continue to do it because you hate doing it. So you have to find a way to do business that you're comfortable with it and you can repeat it so that you don't get burned out, right? It doesn't cause you burnout from doing it. And you know, in my case, I'm a highly social guy, right? I'm an expert at what I do. I've been a candidate. I've been a hiring manager. I've run agencies that do staffing and I've run corporate recruiting. So I've kind of seen it from all different sides. And so I have an understanding that probably most people that I compete with don't. And then we use data, we use psychometric testing. We kind of take it to the next level. Our level of care for each of our opportunities is greater than, I would say, 99% of our competition, because because we are so niched and we can go so deep, and we are retained, right? So they're committing to us. So we don't do work without them committing to saying, okay, we're giving you this piece of work to go do for us.
No, I agreed. And as a business, the way you differentiate, you actually have a methodology. It's called search, right? So you've taken what you do for a customer, and I think this is important for a lot of people to understand. You need to create a system that is yours. Now, it in theory could be like everyone else's. But the truth is, if you articulate it and can visualize it and explain it, it becomes yours. Even if they've heard it 100 different ways, the differentiator will be you and how your experience lines up and how you tell that story. Yours is called search. What's the search stand for?
Search is science, engage. Let me make sure I get all of this correct as we as we go through.
By the way, you should always know your own system.
You should know your system. You should know your acronym. But it's science, engage. I think it's like action, results. I mean, I got to spell search out. Isn't that terrible? This is my big thinker. I can't. Closing and hiring, right? So,
and the reason, listen, the words actually are the purposes for marketing to have the search. The point being underneath it, and I always tell, say the joke of, I have a great memory, it's just short. I do the same thing in our actions, but I know the steps of what we're doing. And the point is, have some kind of system.
Yeah, well, the customers want to know too, right? So that's what's important, right? So like, hey, we're a service provider. So it's like, as a service, what is it that you're actually doing for us, right? And that's why we lead with the science, because that makes us a little bit unique, right? So we come out strong with the science, but recruiting is recruiting, right? And there's a million different ways to do it, but we have to have our system that we repeat it so that we become good at it, so we can say, hey, are we living up to our commitment? Have we done a proper engagement? What is our research telling us, on the marketplace, and and we giving proper feedback to our customers, right? And and when we're closing a candidate, is the candidate ready to be closed, right? Like, that's a big part of our job, right? Because often you can get hiring managers ready to make an offer, but is the candidate ready to accept an offer, right? And so you have to be able to close that candidate. And I'll give you a perfect example. We have a candidate right now getting ready to receive an offer from a customer. This candidate got his MBA, went to work for one company, has been with that company for 15 years, has not left. Right? So this is a big change for this customer, for this candidate, right? Going to go to a good job, more money, it's a bit of a promotion, but it's a big change for someone who doesn't make big changes. So, as we were getting ready to close, I was like, hey, guys, I would, if it's me, right? I'm in your seat. This guy hasn't, made any changes like this in his whole career. Let's get him out for a meal. Let's go sit down with him. Let's make him feel good. Let's let him feel the family part of it, so that when the offer comes, he'll be more likely to accept.
It will, exactly. And I actually think sometimes companies, when they do this, they should recognize that and say, hey, we know this is a huge change. I'm going to get you a career coach for 12 months to help you navigate through the changes you're going to go through and experience. Like, they'd be smart to make that investment back. They're much more likely to stay and not go back to
great idea. I love that idea.
I'm an idea guy. I don't know if you knew that. I tend to
feed mayo to the tuna. You know that reference? That's when the movie Night Shift with Henry Winkler, and I think it's Michael Keaton's first movie, and they were working together. And Michael Keaton was an idea man, and so he'd get these ideas and he'd record them. And one of his ideas in the movie was like, "Hold on, I got an idea. Feed mayo to the tuna.
It makes sense.
So they already taste like tuna salad."
I like sour cream. That's tangent. Okay, we're going to come into some more take back. So the book, right? 50 entrepreneurial life lessons to unleash your entrepreneur. What is a life lesson? The one thing you could go back, you wish you would have known 3 years ago.
Oh, a life lesson to be an entrepreneur? Well, man, there's so many lessons. The most important thing is believing, is the faith, right? I can't imagine anyone being successful without knowing they're going to be successful before they start, right? If there's doubt, I wouldn't do it. Just like an investment. If you're looking at an investment, you're like, I'm not so sure about this investment. I wouldn't do it, right? So the you have to know. You just have to know in your gut, in your soul, inside of you, that's going to work, right? Anything short of that,
Yep,
I wouldn't do it.
I think and that's why I brought it up, because I think that's core to who you are. What's one regret? And it could be on any level.
Oh man, I have so many regrets. It's just my frustration. I wouldn't even call it a regret, but my big frustration is like, why did I not focus on obtaining wisdom younger? Like if I was only, and the truth of it is, you could teach wisdom to your children, right? And they can learn it young, right? They can, because they're not. Wisdom is not, trigonometry, right? It's common sense. This makes sense. Oh, that's a wise choice, right? Of course that makes sense, right? If I would have just learned that stuff much younger, not only would my life be easier for my children, I would have dramatically reduced heartache and pain along the way.
Youth is wasted on the young. And wisdom, the old can't give away. That's a Pearl Jam lyric. Okay. Wisdom, the old can't give away. And I don't know about you, but I was so much smarter. I knew so much more in my 20s and 30s. Oh my God, I was so smart back then. I don't know about you. I've gotten dumb. So dumb now that I have to learn everything
all over again.
Oh, I wish I was so smart back then as I was. I wish I was as smart as I was in my 20s. But you do see people who are still smart, and I am putting the quotes up, in their 50s, and you're like, I wonder why this guy struggled.
Yeah. It's, you get beaten down, and I think if people ever get so tired or so worn down that they aren't able to have dreams and goals and do exciting things, and then that then they start just falling into a rut, and there's a lot of the people that don't own anything of any value, right? And don't have any goals, right? And they're just kind of living. And
I think it's okay not to own anything. I think there's an argument to be made that, hey, just rent everything, but own a goal. Own your own
goal. If you own a goal, your life is full of adventure and excitement.
Exactly.
If you're not moving towards something, that's where I think it gets dangerous.
Yeah, I think Arthur Brooks, I went to go see something at a local leadership lab, and he's an author, and one of his latest books is like the Science of Happiness, and I'm probably not saying the right thing, but one of his things he noticed, he's sitting there in later life, you have to get on a new curve to be happy. And one of the biggest factors, there's other factors, but one of them is want less, have less, need less. And so there's arguments to be made of like houses that are trophies and cars that are trophies and these boat anchors, literally me a boat, that you have. The less things you have allow you to focus on more of the things you want and need in life. Because what happens in life, right, as you know, is you collect things, you have to pay for them, and you have to fix them, and you have to maintain them, and you have to whatever. If you can let go of that and focus on what's around you, family and friends and adventure and learning or whatever, then your happiness goes up instead of down. So I think having a goal to own would be smart. But I'm going to try a new series on you, something new. And I'm not sure I'm going to get the right question, but I know your creativity a little bit. So you're probably going to come back one with me here a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
Would you rather? All right. Would you rather? I'll make it serious because I can't think of anything funny right now that'd be appropriate. Would you rather be happy and complacent in your job, working for somebody else? Like, would you rather have that mentality and make okay money, good money? You're going to be able to retire, or would you rather be the entrepreneur that has to struggle through it all your entire life, but you'll have what you have today? Would you rather have done?
No, that's a tough one.
So I guess, let me shorten the question. Would you rather in your mind be like, I love working for somebody and I'm okay that I'm never going to be wealthy, rich, or have all the free time I want, but I'm happy because I like that? Or would you rather have the hustle and struggle and you might end up in the exact same place, but you had that the whole way?
Yeah, I think it goes to what you're doing. So I worked for a company, I'll give them a shout out, Promethean, education technology company. Loved my job, loved the company, right? We're helping educate children all over the world. Great cause, great sell to candidates. And they treated their employees really well, really well. And I would have stayed there probably indefinitely because I made enough money, right? I made a good living, right? I was able to retire at 401k, saving up, and all those, plenty of vacation days. None of that stuff was an issue. So I really liked working there, and I would have stayed there. Now I had a really cool boss, and I love my boss at that place. But if you're if you're like me, right? So some people are very independent. And that's one of the things we measure for in the predictive index, right? Is their independence. I'm very independent, right? And so as soon as it's like that's not for me, or I'm not gonna work for this person, right? I'm not digging what they're saying. I'm out, right? So it'd be hard for me to imagine, long-term like that candidate I was talking about, 15 years coming out of college, same place. That's stable, right? That's not me.
I mean, 15 years I've been asked to leave 6 times, not even including having a job.
Yeah,
that's the next.
Well, I'm a little bit of a bull in a china closet. So I don't mean to be, but it's accidental that I run over people sometimes. But sometimes I do that.
That's ambition mixed with talent sometimes gets in the way of other people who have been there longer. But that's me making a mistake a little bit of just not reading. Sometimes you don't care. Sometimes you sabotage if you're an entrepreneur at heart and it's in you, sometimes you knowingly sabotage your world. And I know I've done it. Like, I know I've done less than I wanted to because I just didn't want to be there. Like, you start checking out, quietly quitting like day one. You're like, I think I'm just going to find a way to establish enough value to do the bare minimum for the next 18 months and go find something else.
So my wife, Renee, said that to me. I took a job interview one time, and she's like, you should wear cufflinks. I was like, all right, I'll wear a French cuff shirt. And then she's like, what cufflinks did you wear? I was like, I wore Batman cufflinks. She's like, oh, so you didn't even want that job.
Well, can you see these? You know what that is?
What is it? I can see it, but I don't know what it is.
That's the cover album for Pearl Jam's 10.
Oh, see, I wouldn't know. That's cool.
That's it for those listening. I have cufflinks that have the 10-man up. Anyway, all right. Let me. I before we kind of get in a hot seat, where I love to collect data for the potential sponsorship. Do a little plug for your business. So, who do you want to meet? How should they contact you? In just the why. Why should they contact you?
Yeah, best way to contact me is LinkedIn. Vincent Catanzaro at Renee Vincent Executive Placement. That's the easiest way to find me. My last name, Catanzaro, is the capital city of Calabria, the southernmost part of state in Italy. So you can always look it up. It's pretty easy to find. We support, as it turns out, small cap private equity. So private equity companies that are, bringing in new technology leaders, new chief revenue officers, new chief financial officers, new CEOs in some cases, if they're closing on a deal and they're buying it and they're earning a new CEO. Those are the types of searches that we do almost exclusively in private equity. That wasn't like part of the business plan when we went to market, right? Like, it wasn't like, hey, we're gonna pursue private equity, but it was an area that I was really interested in pursuing, and as it worked out, that's where we really said.
Yeah, once you know that, and this is a good advice I always try to give some advice to entrepreneurs. What you set out to go do is not, it's going to change, but don't be so blinded by your vision or narrowness of your vision, like your myopic vision, that you don't see the opportunity that's the one that's brought you there. So take the T at the road, don't run through the sign, sort of thing. So if you said, hey, we were going to chase X and this technology startups, but private equity keeps pulling us this way for retail, then go do it. Because for whatever reason, you're the person. And if you go to their site, it's Renee Vincent. It's ReneeVincent.win, which I love.
WIN.
Yes. I think there's like an author or something on the .com, but the .win is so.
I think all the other ones kind of point you there, but it's when we did it, when we couldn't get .com, I think I got like 6 ones. So we got like .us, .net. I think we have .net even, but but .win was a new one. And I was like, I didn't go with that, right? Because I like to win, right? So,
but your customers do too. So you getting them the right candidate helps them win. And I'm not.
Oh yeah, it's like a positive thing.
That's the truth.
Companies
people matter in a business because that's who runs it. All right, here, some hot seat questions. You ready?
Sure.
What's your favorite scheduling technology?
I like Calendly. That's just because the one I use. I just love the simpleness of it, right? That, I can say, here's my calendar and just put it on there.
I agree. And the that is we're part of Atlanta Tech Village. They came out of there, so here in Atlanta,
Oh, is that true? That's great to know.
They came. That's one.
And I used to spend, this is the automation. I used to spend so much time scheduling.
Amen.
It's like, oh my God, to go back and forth.
I mean, even today, where I'm like, when my calendar's full, I have to use somebody else's, and they're not as proficient. I'm like, can you just can you get any scheduling technology except maybe Outlook? All right. Another question for you. What's your favorite business book that you recommend people reading?
Oh, I have a lot of favorite business books. I think that there's from a leadership perspective, there was a book called Primal Leadership. I really enjoyed Primal Leadership, and it really talks about the emotion of leadership, right? Like, the mood of the organization is the mood of the leader. And I really like that one. I think from a business, like business processing, how to business plan, the Balanced Scorecard. I think that was actually the name of the book, was the Balanced Scorecard. But like the first Balanced Scorecard book, and it talked about how to balance scorecard of business. That was really insightful, and it kind of helps you trim away all the fat, that like things you were doing that were like, well, that makes sense to kind of do, but if it wasn't directly aligned to achieving your goals, I'm like, well, we probably really shouldn't be doing that, right? So so I love the Balanced Scorecard. That's another really good one.
For a startup, right? Do you have a recommendation around CRMs?
I don't. I wish I was a little bit more savvy. So a customer of mine who's an entrepreneur, he runs a small private equity firm. He is a HubSpot like wizard, and the things that he accomplishes in HubSpot make me envious. Right? Like, man, I need to learn. Like, I mean, that was really
HubSpot.
Cool.
It's a common answer, and I like it as well. I know you need to either really have a resource lined up to it to get the most out of it. That's the biggest challenge with a lot of CRMs. But if you have the people or it is the most integratable. It's kind of like the gold standard, if you will, to get to it. So
yeah, I mean, it's impressive. And I like to automate. So like, I actually pay for services to automate a bunch of stuff that probably if I was a HubSpot ninja, I would be able to do without that.
You still would need someone to go get those set up probably for you as well. But because what's your favorite person, maybe up and coming on LinkedIn, that you like to follow, or maybe not up and coming, just who do you like to follow on LinkedIn?
That is a good question. So there's a couple people I follow. There's one woman who I recommend an awful lot. Her name is Vivica von Rosen, and I interviewed her for Meet the New Boss. She's an entrepreneur. She's with a company called Mangresso, and they were like a sales enablement business, and they've now become a software as a service provider in sales enablement. And she was a very early LinkedIn influencer. And her, like, if you go to, how LinkedIn, you can put your name, like LinkedIn, Thomas Helfrich, right? However that works, right? Hers is LinkedIn/LinkedIn expert. And I love that. And she has a book out there, 101 Ways to Rock LinkedIn. And she's really a good follow. And there's another guy. I have his book here, so let me get his name right. Bill Dolan. He's an interesting story. He has a book called the 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing, and he has an advertising company. And he's a very passionate, loving guy. And he died on an airplane. Heart stopped, and back in 1999. And emergency landing. They got his heart started again on the plane. His buddy did, and he's been on like 4 pacemakers. And he identifies with Iron Man. I mean, he has a big Iron Man suit behind him.
When you say he died, he did come back to life, so he's a zombie now. So I'll definitely have.
No, but he did die. He literally died. I mean, he was dead for like a couple minutes, and then came back to life.
Well, I will definitely make sure when I do this post that those are both tagged. And I'm going to say Vince called him a zombie. No, I'm not kidding. There's another question for you, and those are great pieces. So, do you have a favorite quote?
A favorite quote? No, I go through a lot of quotes, but I would tell. I have so many favorite quotes. There's so many of them. But one of my favorite things that I try to tell people, right, especially young people, and this would apply in business too, right? Everyone's always heard, be careful who you hang out with. You want to know something about someone, look at who their friends are, right? Who they do business with, right? And in the book of Proverbs, there's I read that book a long time ago, and I remember thinking to myself, the themes are repeated a lot. One of which was, like, be careful who you hang out with, and it was in there in a matter of which you said, hanging out with foolish people doing foolish things is more dangerous than coming across a bear looking for her cubs, right? And I thought about that, man. Well, coming across a bear looking for her cubs is bad, right? Like, that's very dangerous. Right? But the truth is, you hang out with foolish people doing foolish things, it's super dangerous. Even in business, you hang out with you hang out with the wrong business people, right? You can end up in a really, really bad place, right? So just really keep mindful about who you spend your time with.
Final question. What's your favorite, second to last question. What's your favorite entrepreneurial trait?
Entrepreneurial trait? I think my favorite, I don't know if it's a trait, but my favorite thing, I talked to a woman who was an entrepreneur. She had a failed business and she was very distraught. And she, had an SBA loan and spent all of her SBA loan and spent a bunch of money out of her retirement. Her business was dead, right? And she was asking me for advice. And I was like, it's time to call a bankruptcy attorney, right? Like, that's where you're at. And it's okay, right? The system is set up for people to try to be entrepreneurs. And the message I tried to give her was like, no one can ever take away from you that you went for it, right? It didn't work, but you went for it. You did it. You could do it with no regrets, right? And no one can ever just take that away from you, right? That you went for it. Because so many people don't go for it. And I don't want to die with regrets, right?
I agree. I know you love music, so why would we lie in our graves wondering how things could have been? David Matthews. Lie in our graves. Name of the song. All right. Last question. Have you ever been promoted in the corporate world?
Yes, I have been promoted in the corporate world.
You are not allowed to join the club. Sorry.
Yeah, I have been promoted, but yeah.
Vince, as we say off here, give me 30 seconds once again. How should someone get a hold of you?
30 seconds to get a hold of me. Best way to get a hold of me is LinkedIn, right? So reach out to me on LinkedIn, Vincent Catanzaro, Renee Vincent, executive placement. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can text me, right? 770-789-9667. I would just mention that, hey, I heard your interview on Never Been Promoted and reaching out to you. But, don't call me, because if I don't recognize the number, I'm not answering the call. So that doesn't work. So the text works, LinkedIn works. My email is Vincent@reneevincent.win, WIN, and you can email me as well.
Yeah, definitely text them. Do the number one more time if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is, since you brought up music, is let you know on Saturday night, I was in Madison Square Garden in New York City at the last ever Kiss concert with 3 daughters, friends, grandson, and we did it right.
Leaving us with a bit of envy. I love it. Everybody that's joined today, I say goodbye to you with the idea that it's been another episode of Never Been Promoted, though Vince was promoted. Vince, thank you so much for joining. And take the lessons you learned in this about faith and about starting a business with a loved one, and the idea that you get out there and try. No one ever could take that away from you. And I think some of those are some really great ideas to come back with, is that have a plan, have a goal, and just go after it and be relentless in it. Vince, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. It's a pleasure.
Thanks. Everyone who's listening, once again, thank you again for listening to the Never Been Promoted podcast.
Thanks for listening to Never Been Promoted with Thomas Helfrich. Make sure to check the show notes for our guest contact information and any relevant links. Connect with Thomas personally at neverbeenpromoted.com.
Thanks again to InstantlyRelevant.com for producing the show, all the social media, all the content, posts, articles, everything. Could not do it without you. InstantlyRelevant.com. Check it out. They're awesome. Once again, InstantlyRelevant.com.